This is a famous supernatural story said to have taken place in a village in Şefaatli, Yozgat province, central Turkey. It is known as Sin Yalu, the Jinn Road, and is still told by many locals as a true event. In a beautiful village nestled at the foot of three mountains in Şefaatli, Yozgat, two rivers flowed down from the peaks and joined together right beneath the village. The villagers called this river Kizil Koka. In summer, everyone, young and old, swam there. One hot summer day, 5 boys aged 10-14 went swimming. They took off their clothes, left them on the rocks by the riverbank and jumped in. They played and swam for hours until they suddenly realized the sun was setting. When they climbed out and went to get dressed, their clothes were gone. At first they thought one of them was playing a prank. The oldest shouted, "Who hid them? Come on, we're late, we're going to get in huge trouble." But every single one swore they had never left the water together. No one had come ashore. Then one of the boys yelled, "Look over there." They all turned and saw their clothes floating on the surface of the river, burning with small flames, slowly drifting downstream with the current. As they stood frozen in shock, first came the terrifying sound of a baby crying, followed by loud, mocking laughter that echoed all around the valley, as if dozens of voices were laughing at once. Terrified and completely naked, the boys ran for their lives all the way home. But one of them, a 13-year-old boy named Sate, never made it back. The whole village searched until dawn. The gendarmerie came the next morning and searched for weeks. Not a trace of Sate was ever found. No clothes, no bones, nothing. It was as if the earth had opened up and swallowed him. After that day, the path that ran from the riverbank to the village cemetery became known as Sin Yalu, the Jinn Road. From then on, anyone who walked that path after dark heard whispers, baby cries, their own names being called from the pitch blackness, stones thrown at them, and sometimes even the sounds of a full Jinn wedding procession with drums and zurnas. Occasionally, shadowy figures would appear and vanish. The villagers stopped using the path after sunset. They locked themselves inside as soon as it got dark. Alad, a brave and stubborn man from the village, was furious that invisible creatures had terrified his people and turned them into prisoners in their own homes. He declared, "I will get rid of these Jinn once and for all." One night, his friend Mustafa's pregnant wife went into labor. Mustafa rode his horse in the dark to fetch the village midwife, taking the shortcut past the cemetery. The Jinn attacked him. When Alad found him later, guided by reciting Surah as-Safat out loud, Mustafa's tongue was grotesquely swollen, his face was covered in blood and animal filth, and his eyes were bulging. Alad managed to rescue him and bring him home. That was the last straw. Alad gathered the villagers and made them a bold offer. "I will build a house right in the middle of the Jinn Road and live there with my wife Neslihan. You all say the Jinn leave me alone because my wife is a saintly woman, right? Fine. If nothing happens to us, they'll have to change their route. If I'm right and nothing happens, you pay half the cost of the house. Deal." The villagers, exhausted from living in fear, agreed. The house was built exactly on the Jinn path. Alad and his pious wife, Neslihan, moved in despite her strong objections. For the first 15-20 days, everything was calm. Then the harassment began. Stones thrown at the windows at night, the sound of drums and zurnas, animal feces smeared on doors and all over the garden, doors opening and slamming by themselves, light bulbs exploding. One night Alad went to the barn and found a creature with the body of a goat and a huge human-like head biting his sheep and spitting out the flesh. He raised his shotgun, it jammed. His wife's prayers drove the creature away. The final incident broke everything. One evening, Alad was late coming home. A man who looked exactly like Alad walked in, but his hands were ice cold. Neslihan realized instantly it was a Jinn in her husband's form. She began reciting protective verses loudly. The creature growled, put on Alad's clothes, walked to the door, turned back and spoke first in Hebrew, They later learned it was Hebrew, then let out an ear-piercing scream that lasted nearly 3 full minutes without taking a breath. A violent wind suddenly tore through the house. Sheets, pillows, and light objects flew and stuck to the walls and windows. Finally, the creature fixed its glowing eyes on her and said, "Tell your husband to leave this house tonight, or by morning they won't even find your corpses." Then it vanished. The door slammed shut with impossible force. When the real Aladdin arrived minutes later, Neslihan took off her wedding ring, placed it in his hand, and said, "Either you promise right now that we move out today and never set foot here again, or from this moment on we are only brother and sister in this world and the next. You choose." Aladdin chose his wife. They moved out that very day and never returned. Later, God blessed them with a sweet little daughter and then a respectful, well-mannered son. The 4 of them lived happily ever after, always thanking Allah for every new day. And that is the story of the Jinn Road in Şefaatli, Yozgat, still told in Turkey as a true event to this day. It was a cold November evening. I had just left work a little after 6 and the sky had already gone dark. Heavy clouds drifted slowly, as if warning of an incoming storm. The wind rustled the leaves and swayed the branches. As usual, I decided to take the shortcut home past the old cemetery. I'd walked that path for years. It never felt strange to me. Sometimes the silence there even calmed me down. As I passed the rusty, creaking iron gate of the cemetery, I heard a strange sound. At first I thought it was just the wind in the trees, but when I listened carefully, it was a child crying, a very small girl. I stopped and looked around. The street was empty. House lights glowed faintly in the distance. The street lamps hadn't come on yet. Everything was wrapped in a misty half-darkness. The crying was coming from deep inside the cemetery, like a pain torn from the deepest part of a soul. I turned my ear toward it. It really was the voice of a very young girl. A strange feeling rose inside me. My heart started beating faster, but I wasn't truly scared yet. Maybe a child had gotten lost in there. What would a kid be doing here at this hour? I thought, but I felt I had to help. I whispered Ya Allah to myself, took out my prayer beads, recited Ayat al-Kursi, and pushed open the heavy cemetery gate. The gate opened with a terrifying groan, as if it hadn't been touched in years. Once inside, my footsteps echoed between the gravestones. The gravel crunched under my shoes. The crying became clearer, definitely the voice of a girl, maybe 8 or 10 years old, full of deep sorrow and helplessness. I started walking toward the sound, stepping carefully so I wouldn't trip over the stones in the dark. The cemetery had always been there. I knew it since childhood. Old, weathered tombstones, some fallen, some leaning. The wind made eerie noises as it passed between them. Moonlight filtered through the clouds, casting a silvery glow on the stones. The strange thing was that the closer I got, the fainter the crying became. When I stopped, it grew louder again. When I realized this, a chill ran down my spine. I kept walking while reciting prayers under my breath. May Allah turn this to good. I had reached the middle of the cemetery. Here the graves were even older. The writing on some stones had completely worn away. On one, only the name Fatma was barely readable. The date was illegible. Another had a child's picture carved on it, but it was so faded you could hardly see it. Then suddenly the crying stopped completely. I looked around, no one, just the soft rustle of the wind. My heartbeat was all I could hear. It was dead silent. Maybe I'd imagined it. Maybe I was just exhausted from standing all day at the supermarket. I decided to turn back and leave. But as I walked toward the exit, the crying started again, this time louder, more desperate, the kind that breaks your heart. I turned and looked. In the moonlight, the tombstones looked like ghosts. The shadows were long and terrifying. I tried to figure out where the sound was coming from. When I went right, it faded. When I went left, it grew stronger. It felt like a game, like playing hide-and-seek with someone. My heart was pounding now. My breathing grew heavy. Ya Allah, protect my mind, I whispered and decided to get out of there fast. As I hurried toward the gate, I saw movement between the graves. I looked closer and realized it was a human shape. A little girl in a white dress stood there, staring straight at me. She was terrifyingly thin, almost skeletal. Her face was pale, her eyes sunken. The dress was old but spotlessly clean. Her hair was long, straight, and black. The scariest part, she wasn't moving at all. She just stared. Suddenly she shouted, "Where are you going? Help me." The voice was so clear it felt like it was inside my head. I couldn't speak at first, there was a lump in my throat. Then I managed, "Who are you, child? What happened?" Her expression didn't change. Her eyes were still fixed on me, empty. She repeated the exact same words in the exact same tone, like a recording. "Where are you going? Help me." She slowly raised her bony arm and pointed to a grave behind her. When I got closer, I was met with a horrifying sight. The grave looked freshly dug. It was surrounded by snakes, big black ones, vipers, species I'd never seen. They slithered all around it, some were going in and out of the hole. An unbearable stench filled the air, rotting flesh, mold, something unnatural. I screamed, "Ya Allah," and ran. I didn't look back once. I recited every prayer I knew until I reached home, out of breath. My heart felt like it would burst out of my chest. My hands were shaking. I was soaked in cold sweat. When I got inside and looked in the mirror, my face was white as chalk, dark circles under my eyes. I couldn't get the girl's empty stare, the snakes, that horrible smell out of my mind. I didn't sleep at all that night. The next morning I told myself, it was just exhaustion, go look in daylight. Curiosity was stronger than fear. When I went back, the grave was perfectly clean. No snakes, no smell. The headstone was intact. The writing was clear. Zara, age 12, 1998. The flowers around it were wilted but neatly arranged. I convinced myself it had been a hallucination from tiredness and went to work. But something still felt off. That evening I deliberately took a longer route home. I fell asleep exhausted, but my dreams were restless. I kept seeing the girl. The next night I thought, I'll take the shortcut again. It was just fatigue. Everything seemed normal at first. I even laughed at myself. Halfway through, the crying started again, clearer, closer, right beside my ear. I ran home. My neighbor Ali Abai, a respected retired man in his 60s, saw me drenched in sweat and panting. "What's wrong, Deniz?" I told him everything from beginning to end. He looked doubtful. "Son, you're tired. These things don't happen. Maybe you dreamed it. If you don't believe me, come with me. Come hear it yourself." He didn't want to at first, but I convinced him. We walked to the cemetery together. He kept saying, "You're just tired, too much coffee maybe." At the entrance, nothing. Inside, nothing. Ali Abai turned to me, "See, no sound, it's completely quiet. Come on, let's go to the grave." He reluctantly agreed. When we reached Zara's grave, everything looked normal again, clean, flowers fresh. Ali Abai got angry. "Deniz, what are you trying to pull? Did you take something?" Just as he was grumbling and we headed for the gate, the girl appeared again, closer this time. We could see her face clearly, huge, deep, sorrowful eyes. I shouted, "There, Ali Abai, right there." He froze, eyes wide. "Good God, is that girl real?" At that moment she repeated, "Where are you going? Help me." Ali Abai grabbed me. "Run, Deniz, run." We sprinted out. Despite his age, he ran faster than me. When we got to his house, we were both drenched in sweat. "Come stay with us tonight," he said. "Don't be alone, this isn't normal." That night I slept at their place. His wife Aishtaz made tea and kept saying, "May God protect us." The next morning we went to Fatih Hoka, a very experienced 65-year-old religious scholar who helped people with spiritual problems. We told him everything. He was surprised but said, "Let's go see what this is." In daylight, the grave looked normal again. Hoka examined the soil and stone carefully. Someone has tampered with this grave recently. The soil is freshly turned. We'll come back tonight. That evening, Ali Abai Hoka and I returned. Hoka brought his prayer book. We waited half an hour, nothing happened. Hoka started to get annoyed. Are you two messing with me? I couldn't take it anymore and shouted into the darkness. Whoever you are, come out. What do you want from me? My voice echoed through the cemetery. Right then the crying began, first faint, then loud and close. We turned to the grave. The horrifying scene was back, snakes everywhere, the stench, the cracked headstone. Hoka said Bismillah and started reciting Ayat al-Kursi, Surah al-Falaq and An-Nas. The snakes went crazy, writhing and diving in and out of the grave. The girl appeared even closer this time and said something different. Help me, look at my grave, look under my headstone. Hoka called out, Who are you, child? What do you want? Look under the headstone, there's something there, take it. Then she slowly vanished. The snakes and the smell disappeared too, as if nothing had happened. Hoka touched the headstone. It lifted easily, as though it had been moved before. He shone his flashlight underneath. Wrapped in black cloth was a talisman covered in strange symbols and writing. Hoka recited prayers as he took it. This girl was cursed. This talisman was buried here so her soul would never rest. We have to find her family. This is very powerful black magic. That night Hoka destroyed the talisman, recited prayers over it and burned it. The next day we tracked down Zahra's family. Her mother had passed away. Her father had remarried. Zahra had been their only child. When we visited, the stepmother gave us cold, hostile looks, a hard-faced woman around 45. The father broke down when we told him about the talisman. My daughter suffered so much from illness. Her organs failed. She was only 12. Hoka performed rituals and investigations for several nights. It turned out the stepmother was actually a Jinn who had fallen in love with the father. She first killed the real mother, then tormented and eventually killed Zahra with black magic. The talisman under the grave was meant to keep Zahra's soul in eternal pain. Hoka banished the Jinn back to its realm, with long prayers and ceremonies. Zahra's soul finally found peace. 5 years have passed since that night. My life has completely changed. I quit my supermarket job. Now I work with Fatty Hoka, helping people with spiritual and paranormal problems. Ali Abai passed away last year. Until his final breath, he never forgot that night and told everyone, if Deniz hadn't helped that little girl, who knows how much longer her soul would have suffered. Zahra's father, Uncle Mehmet, died 2 years later. Before he passed, he found me, held my hands with tears in his eyes and said, Son, if it weren't for you, my daughter's soul would still be in pain. May God be pleased with you. Now whenever I pass the cemetery, I visit Zahra's grave. It's always covered with fresh flowers. I don't know who puts them there, but someone is always taking care of it. Sometimes when I sit by her grave, I feel a gentle warmth, as if a tiny hand is softly touching my shoulder. It's not scary, it's comforting. Last week, while visiting her grave again, a little girl about 6 or 7 years old suddenly appeared beside me. This time she was smiling, happy. She said in the sweetest voice, Uncle, thank you so much, and vanished. That night I dreamed of Zahra. She was no longer sick. She wore a beautiful white dress and smiled. Deniz brother, she said, thank you so much. I'm very happy now. My pain is gone. I woke up with tears in my eyes. Now her headstone reads, Little angel in the land of angels. Fatty Hoka had it engraved. Every time I pass by, I look at it and smile. Because I know that little angel is finally happy, in heaven with her mother. And whenever I walk past the cemetery now, I recite prayers for all the souls there. Because I learned that there is life after death, and sometimes those of us still living have to help the souls who are stuck here find peace.